What is up, guys? Koga here again, and this time with another 3.17 League Starter. Another tried and perfected build. Well, technically, it is perfected and tried, but I haven't played this build in a while, so I did have to remake it in standard, and I tested it myself with actually good, not scuffed gear, and it worked out incredibly well. And I've made some crazy, re-additions to the build using Grace and Termination and using the Perseverance Bell, which gives you attack damage based on your lowest of armor and evasion. We have a lot of both. And it's insane because we get perma onslaught thanks to like perma fortify, and through like perma fortify, insane armor, insane evasion, 50% chance to block and left gain on hit. The damn calculation, no spell suppression by the way. You could fit it in if you could somehow fit it in, because we do need a lot of res, especially if he's a lot of uniques. We have 400 effective HP pool. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? It's so damn tanky, this build. I highly recommend it, and it's super solid. The only caveat to steel skills is that you can use Scavas just like the Rage Vortex build, but Lancing Steel really wants a Paradotica and a Savior. So there's that caveat. So don't expect to do a lot of fuckload of damage in tier 16s. But like mostly like let's say like Maze of Minotaur, Guardian maps, high-end bosses, Elder, on like max HP. Like, I don't know what the equivalent of Awakening 8 is now. I'm assuming 4 Void Stones. But don't really expect to do that much damage until you get it with Paradoxica and Savior. With Scavas, you're still doing like around 4 to 5 million damage, but because due to the nature of the projectile, sometimes it can miss, or your positioning, it might feel less than that, and I don't know, the damage doesn't really feel as accurate as it is. There's some moments where you feel like you're doing double what the POB says, and sometimes it feels like it's half, and that's all due to the nature of the projectiles, and you got to make sure that your accuracy is as close to 100 or 100 all the fucking time. So keep that in mind. So accuracy is a pretty big deal in this build. But it's a solid build. I want to show it to you guys. You can use Scavas. You can do the recipe with the weapons, with the rustic sash, magic or rare rustic sash, a sword, a white sword, whatever, from the shop, and then a blacksmith whetstone to just scale throughout the game like usual. And you can use increased crit strikes early on in order to get that crit until you have a Scava. So we'll go over that very quickly. So let's go right into the POB. But before that, as per the usual, if you want to help me with the YouTube algorithm, please leave a like on the video and or leave a question/comment down below. On top of that, if you guys want to join the community or ask me a question there, the Discord link is down below. And I am going to stream this Friday on Twitch, and I do stream every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically on Twitch. But specifically, this Friday is League launch, and I will be streaming it, and I'll be using Penna's brand. So if you guys are playing the build with me, you can play it along with me, and if I make any changes, you can, make it on me on the fly, or, if you have any questions on how the build functions, or maybe you're missing something, as always, I'm there for you to ask me. And we're pretty much gonna go fucking hard as hell and try to get to maps at least within try day 1, but it's pretty hard when you have the new like things that I want to like experience on day 1. So it's probably day 2 for sure. Thanks to we don't have leveling gear, and there's new content for me to like explore and test around with while leveling. So it takes me longer to level. I'm not one of those guys that rush to end game just because I want to make money. It's kind of boring that way. But yeah, boys. On top of that, just real quick, stick to the end, of the map, because I got a fucking drop that I wish I didn't get, because that should have happened in the league tomorrow, not in this fucking map. And excuse my French, but it pisses me off when I use my luck before the league testing shit. This is what it is. So without further ado, let's go into the POB. So here we are in the path of building, link down below, and also the download link for the program if you are new to this. And here is the tree. In summary, Lancing isn't really too complicated of a skill, really. Just to show you guys in game, you do have a Call of Steel, and then you shoot this little thing here that shoots a bunch of projectiles, and it has like a more multi-projectile kind of thing. Versus Lancing fires 50% more projectiles per steel shard consumed. When you Call of Steel, you get 4. You get 12, but you consume 4 every time that you lance, and that makes GMP actually an insane gem for it, because this thing actually gives it like 6 projectiles instead of 4. And the less projectile, it wins in the end. Now keep in mind, this is also a caveat, because if you do like have bad positioning, because you see like you don't want to be point blank on the boss, because you're not summoning it right in front of you, summoning it like a little distance away. So for example, I don't know, let's just for sake of experimenting, I put Navali here. If Navali was the boss and I did it right here, you see it like it might go through him instead of hitting him. So you kind of want to distance yourself a little bit away, like right here, This is kind of like where you want to be, a little sweet spot, because all the projectiles are probably going to hit him. And you notice the difference. Like if you're too close, your damage just feels like whack. And then sometimes you have the perfect spot with everything up and you're like, what the fuck is this? Damage is insane. And yeah, that's kind of the nature of it. And also you got to make sure that you have 100% accuracy, right? As much as possible. Right? Which it seems like I do not with Perseverance. So keep in mind the damage you're going to see in the map is with low accuracy. Because, yeah, my gear right now isn't fit for that accuracy right yet. Right there, anyway. But essentially, that's pretty much the gist of it, right? And then for clear, we're going to be swapping out slower projectiles for chain. So we have GMP and chain. And with this, all these projectiles that will shoot enemies will chain to each other. And it's insane, especially when you combine it with Dying Sun. And the amount of projectiles shoot out is fucking nuts. And then on top of that, once we get Mark on hit and Sniper's Mark, which we're replacing here, the Feral's Fur is just for show. It's not what I'm actually using in the POB. Because this was a character that I played before. It was a Frenzy Strike character. You know, Frenzy Strike needs a Feral's usually. And I was going to say, since Sniper's Mark is going to be a mark on hit, and that's not a mark that used to be on rings. It used to be one of those marks that you had to use with Arcanist brand. Now for clear, we're going to have Sniper's Mark, which means that as we hit an enemy, it's going to bounce all over the place, with making snipers or steel skills or lancing and or splitting steel in general just be able to clear better, because snipers allows you to clear better. As simple as that. And yeah, I'm very excited to test that. And that's, you know, one thing that I'm like probably the most excited for these type of builds. Mark on it's going to be insane for attack-based builds. Right? And otherwise, for an Impale build, you just want to stack as much basically fizz damage as possible. That's kind of like the point of this. Master of Metal gives you a lot of flat fizz damage, kind of like a Facebreaker build. So you see you have flat fizz here, flat fizz there, whatever. It is flat fizz, but a lot of fizz damage. It gives you a lot of attack damage, flat fizz there. You don't really care too much about attack speed. Attack speed really is just your leap slam, because this, like, your attack speed affects how fast you place the thing, but the speed at which this shoots out your things don't, you know, it's not scaled by attack speed, unfortunately not. And either way, you're limited by how often you can call it steel. But ideally, you do want to use a Paradoxica with like increased fizz damage, crit chance, and then chance to impale, and then a savior. You don't want the attack speed one, because even though it's good for leap slam, it doesn't scale lancing steel that often. You actually, like in my scenario, with the way I have the tree with the masteries with a lot of chance to impale, you don't really need the Paradoxica's chance to impale. So if you want, you just get like a high fizz damage roll with whatever, maybe blind, and then get the crit chances. Kind of what we call it. That's the ideal version of Paradoxica. But until then, you know, feel free to just dual wield 2 Scavas. It'll take you a long way of the end game. But the thing about this, the Savior, is that it makes 2 clones that also shoot this out in the same position. So it's really, really neat. So sometimes it feels like you still have uptime, even though you're not calling steel. So when you put Scavas on, right? Well, it doesn't really matter at this point because I'm not hitting anything. Make sure to, you know, keep attacking and kind of focus on the how many steel shards you have left. I don't have enough mana because I'm not leeching anything right now. So yeah, so like don't just lay there and do nothing, you know. Make sure you're either call stealing or shooting at one point, and it'll feel a lot better, trust me. But otherwise, pretty much the gist of that. Otherwise, it's just like a normal fizz damage, you know, impale, crit, you know, tree with a lot of life and things like that. And yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory. Something real like crazy in this build overall. So with that, let's go into the leveling POB. We're starting off with Duelist, and I really like this tree because it goes pretty simple. Like you come down here, go left, go up, and then come down, go left, picks us up, and go right. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of like a little line you can follow. But early on, you basically just pick up life, a lot of dex, some life, some little dual wielding damage and block. You know, accuracy, attack speed, a little bit of life. Now, this thing is kind of neat. Lord of Steel, they're super cheap. You're not going to have one like when you start the league, let's be honest here. But these are dirt cheap and they drop like flies everywhere. And you really want this one that has Impale effect, the AoE, and then the U speed. And the reason why you want that is because that allows you to do this, you know, the Call of Steel, as fast as possible. Otherwise, it takes a very long time and it's going to be really slow and annoying. You can ignore it completely until you get one. It still feels fine without this, but this makes a pretty big difference. You definitely want this. But then you come life, you get life, you get some attack speed and fizz damage, and some accuracy and intelligence and dexterity you're gonna need. Come down, go left, get a call to arms because we do have Enduring Cry here with Second Wind. Where is it? And Blood Rage. And it's just really there as a life pot. You can take it off if you want, but I really like that shit button. More life. The sword crit nodes are here insane because they give you a lot of early crit. And if you link it, your main gem I just show you now what it is for starting. For basically like starting out the league. The first skill you're going to be using. Super easy with this. Is basically splitting steel. But if you link up increased crit with this node, you have a lot of early crit, like 25 to like maybe 30, almost 30. Especially with Diamond Pot. And then you basically get life and then rush point blank to get that extra 30% damage for free. Because if you're playing Lancing, you want to be in front of the face anyway, so all the projectiles can hit. So that's like a no-brainer. You definitely want that. And that's pretty much it for the early tree. You know, your first tendency is definitely going to be Master Metal for all that extra damage that you definitely need for the Impale. 78. Here's where we start filling out a lot of the Impale chance. You know, get the life up here, get Iron Grip for the extra damage. Get the aura node so you can fit all the auras. You're probably not going to be able to fit everything because we do have Enlightened here at level 3. Until then, just drop Hail the Purity because it's only there for damage and nothing else. You know, it's really minor. It's only, what, like 10% more damage, right? 12%, whatever. Who cares? You know, Bastion Breaker's insane. Gives you like 60% attack damage and then and also Overwhelm. And then it also has Physical Mastery. Overwhelm basically means it ignores armor. Like 20% of the enemy's armor is ignored if they even have armor. Kind of like Armor Pen. Think about it. Like, it's like Fizz Penetration is the best way you can think about it. Physical Mastery, you want that Enchanted Pale. More alive. Actually, we already covered that. But you get the rest of the life here. You get Force Curve for your Impale chance. You get the marks here. This is insane because you get Culling Strikes. And then in Act 3, you get Mark on hit with Snipers. And this should not be increased effective mark. It should be get a Frenzy when you hit somebody with your mark. But there is this one where you get a Frenzy when you hit a unique enemy. So depending on which is better, you can also leave increased effective marks there and get the Frenzy from here. But it's up to you. But this should be the mark Frenzy one, which we don't have yet. It's going to be buffed. More alive. Twin Turret is insane crit. A lot of crit chance. And also has a Dual Thing Mastery. This is offhand crit chance. And then, I mean, you're going to have Scavas, but Savior has really bad crit chance. So that +1 to offhand makes a pretty big difference on your offhand. Lethality for more crit. Leech. All this Fatal Blaze, a bunch of crit, and more life. Pretty much self-explanatory. Again, you just follow the lines and things like that. So pretty much all you added was this. And a few nodes along this line and all this on the right. Right, and then your next tendencies are going to be going straight for Fortify. So yeah, that Perma Fortify is insane. And then at level 93, you get the Watcher's Eye that gives you a Vitality chance to hit. Oh, Vitality life gain on hit, which is insane for survivability in the build. Highly recommend it. Because otherwise you're pretty much relying on Blood Rage Leech for your sustainability. You know, you can also get like some more to leech from, like, I think here. Like this one little node, or maybe this one node. Oh, they took it out. It used to be here with one-handed. I guess they removed it. But there's a lot of Fizz Leech. Let me put Leech here. Right there, Fizz damage leeches life. So you can definitely grab the little point if you so desire. Until, if you don't want to use Blood Rage, you know, up to you. Other than that, we get the rest of the Brutal Blade here for, you know, a little bit of block and a lot of damage. Get the rest of the crit. Get the Jewel. And that's pretty much it. That is the tree in its entirety. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, the last ascendancy you're gonna pick up is inspirational for the, you know, banners are free, and then effective non-curse auras, which is insane. Now as for skill gems, the skill gem you're gonna be leveling up with is Splitting Steel, because you literally get Splitting Steel in Act 1. You want to link it to chance to bleed and increase crit. You can also link it with Maim until you get increased crit, because I think increased crit you get later after Maim. If you have problems with mana, you don't want to use the mana pot, you can use the life pot, life tap instead of Maim. If you want more speed, you can put Onslaught instead of Maim. And then eventually I think you're gonna want a lot of chance to Impale. So once you get Impale, I think in Act 3, if you still need Impale chance, put that bitch on your 4th or 5th link. I'm assuming by this point it's probably gonna be a 4 link. So it'll be like Splitting Steel, chance to bleed, increase crit, and Impale. Once you have a decent sword, you can take out chance to bleed, probably around level 40 or 50. It might still be your best thing until Scava, but probably, you know, keep it for a while if you don't have a good sword or unique sword, because most of your swords are going to be just flat percent fizz swords from the blacksmith whetstone recipe anyway, right? That's pretty much it for the leveling. It's nothing too crazy. Everything else is going to be you pick it up as you go. Like all these skill gems, just pick them as you go. But your helmet, you basically have Sniper's Mark of Mark on hit. It's not in the game yet. It's not on POBs, but it's basically that. The other 2 link is going to be a level 1 Vitality. That's only if you have the Watcher's Eye. If you don't have the Watcher's Eye, you can definitely remove it. And then just 2 free links. You can put like another cast with damage taken or whatever the fuck you want. Just leave it empty. You put Portal. I don't care. You can do whatever you want with it. For your auras, you know, here's where it gets a little tricky. Due to the nature of how I built this. If you want the max deeps, you want Pride. But if you want max defenses, you want Grace. And Grace is still really good because we're using a belt called, you could use a belt called Perseverance. where it gives you 1% attack damage for 200 of the lowest armor and evasion. And also gives you onslaught. We have fortify, since we have perma fortify, we also have perma onslaught, and it is pretty good because it gives life and cold res. So what's up happening is that in this scenario, we have 29,000 armor and 18,000 evasion. Evasion is the lowest one, right? You do 18k. Persevering gives you 1 for 200, so divide by 200. We literally get 90% attack damage from this belt. It's not as insane as Pride, but the problem with Pride is that it says nearby enemies take damage. So the minute you leave the radius, you're not going to get the maximum damage anymore. You're going back to the 19% only more multiplier. And for clear, just fuck all, because if you're playing Lancing, you're going to be pretty far away anyway, just, you know, shooting from afar, letting the chain do everything. So for clear, the Grace actually performs better with the belt than Pride without the belt. Because if you're not using Grace with the belt, then you want to go with the max damage route, and then you want to use Release Optus Coil, and or if you have the money, a Stygian Vise with like res, and a Jewel with fizz damage, life, and blind. And if you go down that route, you know, you can also put in Pride for even more damage over Grace if you guys are going like max thieves, right? But the route I recommend is the Perseverance route with Grace, because it's insane the amount of defenses you have with all that, you know, situation up. And you get perma onslaught, which is really good for clear, and the leap slam and things like that. It's just so good for like overall clear and damage. This is my recommendation, but you can do what you want. Sword, one of them is going to be Castle Damage Taken, level 9, Immortal Coil and Ice Golem, level 11 each. On the other sword is Leap Slam and Sun Protector, faster attacks. It should be free because we have a lot of minus mana. Your other gloves are going to be Dread Banner, which is free. Second one, Enduring Cry, Blood Rage for the Leech. And then here you have two different clear setups. Now with, like I said earlier, with Sniper's Mark on hit, do Mark on hit. And it doesn't even have to be linked to your like main setup, by the way. I forgot to mention that all the time. I don't even know if you guys, I don't know if you guys read that patch notes, but it doesn't have to be linked according to what they said. I prefer Lancing Chain over Split Fork, but you can do Splitting Steel with Fork with slower, vicious, brutal, and increased crit damage. But I prefer Lancing with GMP, Chain, Brutality, Vicious, and increased crit damage. But for single target, you take out Chain and you put slower. So you're gonna have Lancing, increased crit, Vicious, slower, GMP, and Brutality. And that's pretty much it for the gems, you know. Pretty self-explanatory. Luckily, this build's not as complicated as the other ones and how they function. It's just, you know, many projectile do damage, projectile give you impale does damage, win the game, and then sack a lot of defense. And then position yourself well. It's the kind of like most projectile builds you want to be positioned well, kind of like Spectral Helix and, you know, what's the other skill? Spectral Throw, which is an L these days. RIP Spectral Throw, right? Well, that's pretty much it. Pantheon, you're gonna be Brine King for the Cannot Be Frozen, and on your boots you want to craft Cannot Be Chilled, because you're gonna be leap slamming anyway, so movement speed is not really that needed. It's a cool combo, I highly recommend. And those are the only two like really annoying ailments that will impede your gameplay. Alira is your Bandit. I forgot to mention the other two, but they're up here, you know, or you can ask me in the Discord. But the Bandit's up here now in the POB, so if you ever ask that question, it should be here. It gives you a lot of res, regen, and crit multi, which is totally worth in a build like this. Now for your gear, your main weapons are going to be Paradoxica Savior. That's your end game goal weapons. Until then, you can grab like a cheap Paradoxica, but make sure, you know, it has some crit chance on it. And Savior, and then otherwise you'll be using dual wielding Scava. You still have 5 million deep, so don't complain too much, please. It's still fine. Your helmet. You basically want, I don't know why the accuracy's up there, should not be, but you basically want like armor, evasion, life, accuracy, and, you know, resistances. Your Astral Plate, life, armor, max. Well, you can do like, it can be an Astral Plate, or it can be like a normal, like a Triumphant Laminar, which is hybrid life and armor. Not life. Armor and energy shield. I'm losing my shit today. Armor and evasion. But Astral Plate's obviously really good because you want that res. But keep in mind that the majority of our gems are green. So maybe you do want to go armor, evasion, hybrid. It'll be cheaper for you to color. Basically just life, armor, and evasion, and res. Pretty much fucking it. That's literally it. I don't think you need the base 1 crit. If you get a base crit chest piece, it'll help for attack damage. But, you know, I'm focusing a lot on that armor roll. Gloves. If you get gloves like this, you're a fucking madman. But you basically want like these gloves, which is basically like life, accuracy, attack speed, flat phase, and a res with an open prefix for fuck all, whatever the fuck you want. But ideally, you're probably gonna get gloves like this, which is like, you know, good life, good res, a little bit of flat fizz, and then craft attack speed, which would be cheaper. Crafting attack speed is always the cheapest route. Keep that in mind for gloves. For your boots, just, you know, life, res, and then craft cannot be chilled, like I said earlier. Your amulet's going to be basically strength and intelligence, because you don't need it. Flat fizz, a lot of it, and crit multi, and then life. And then try to get open prefix to get that -7 mana cost. Your other ring, Circle of Guilt, insanely strong ring, ideally with double damage. But to help with mana and help with cost, I just put buff effects and or fizz damage are both really good. With reduced mana reservation, helps with a lot with your mana problems. Not as much damage, but it's still very solid. You know, as I'm saying, the gear that I'm actually using is a lot. It's pretty good compared to what the POB has, but you still have insane numbers anyway here. And it's not even maxed with, like, because I'm using bullshit Feral Spur and all that stuff. Keep that in mind. And then your anointment is insane, which is ambidexterity. For some fucking reason, this fucking node just adds so much damage. Like, this node's insane. It adds like 50% damage because the attack damage, it's just so much damage, basically. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's just ambidexterity does a lot of damage. As you can see here, and then I forgot to, yeah, we were talking about this ring already, right? But if you don't have this ring, you can definitely use like another ring with, like, you know, a minus mana cost, life, accuracy, resistances, flat fizz, whatever the case may be. As the case of this other steel ring is what we're using. You can also use the Mark of the Elder and have the other ring be a shaper ring, but there's no benefit to that anymore because it used to be like Assassin's Mark rings and things like that. Not really a benefit anymore, but it is probably a cheaper option, but you're not going to find it till late in the game when people are doing Uber Elder. But until then, just use life, res, flat fizz, minus mana cost rings, pretty much. Belt, like I said earlier, max damage is Rata's Coil. If you need res, get a Stygian Vise, and then your jewel is going to be, you know, flat fizz or like crit multi with blind. Otherwise, I think Perseverance is usually as dog cheap, like super cheap fucking belts, like 5C under. Super solid. If you use the Grace Divination, I highly recommend it, and it's really good. That Perma Onslaught is so nice. As for Flask, you basically want a bleed flask, maybe 1/1 instant instead of this one, instead of recovery rate, up to you. With immunity to bleed, a Dying Sun. If you don't have this, just use like a Jaded Flask or something, or like an Aziri's Promise, or not Aziri's Promise because you can't do chaos damage. What's the other thing you could use? A Sulfur Flask. But, you know, we do have a Bottle Faith. Instead of a Bottle Faith, you're probably going to use a Sulfur Flask. Because this is kind of like, you know, min-max type shit. So definitely use a bottle, what do you call it? A Sulfur instead of a Bottle Faith. If you have that. For the Dying Sun, you can probably just fit in, like, honestly, a J Flask. Or, I was going to say a Chaos Flask, which is the Amethyst Flask. There you go. And then for your other flask, you want a Surgeon's Flask, basically with a chance to get a flash charge and do a crit. And I just realized this Diamond Flask is out of whack. Let me go ahead and come over here. Not this one. Where is my other Diamond Flask? This one. Remove, apply enchantment, because they increase effect has a higher number. Boom, bada bing. A little bit more crit. And I don't know why I removed my crit chance for some fucking reason. Critical strike chance is give it like a decent roll, like a small roll. There you go. So basically, you want like a chance to get a flash charge when you do a crit, probably like 20% or higher. But you know, as long as you get it, you're good. Because we hit so much that when we crit, we're gonna get a lot of flash charges. You want that on everything, basically, even the life flask if you could, you know. With increased crit and then increased effect. You know, it's basically just a pure like single target damage flask. And if you use the Perseverance setup, you don't want to use the Silver Flask. You want to use the Roomies. So I don't know why I took it out. But instead of that one, it should be a Roomie. So basically, Skava, with max deeps, you want a Silver Flask, but with the not the max deeps, the Grace and Perseverance, you want a Roomies. There you go. That's why, because that max deep on it didn't show it. There you go. Perfect. Okay. I forget how this little like fucking thing works, because this is like a weapon swap and this is like a different set of gear, so it confuses me which is which, right? Basically, Grace Perseverance, because we had Onslaught from the belt, you don't need a Silver Flask, so you can just use the Roomies for armor and block. But if you don't, you go the max deeps, then you want the Silver Flask, because the other belt would be like a Stygian Vice. You get my point. Okay. Max deeps, let me put the Resolve's Coil back. There you go. Right, so that's kind of the gist of that, because you get Onslaught from here. And then your last one, obviously, Bottle Faith, or use a Silver Flask. You can put things like Immunity to Curse, Reduced Effective Curse, not Immunity to Curse, but a Reduced Effective Curse. And you can put also increased armor, increased evasion, whatever the case may be for you, my friend. And that's pretty much that. Sorry, I had to like, I got a little bit confused here with the flask and the belt, but there's so many different versions you can play as that. Keep in mind, it makes a pretty big difference, you know, on how you want to play it. As you can see here, like the effective HP pool is like 403k, which is absolutely ridiculous. Keep in mind your hit chance and things like that, and your accuracy. You know, you want to cycle as much accuracy as possible. That's why we do have the ice golem on castle damage taken. It goes a long way, right? And that's pretty much the gist of the build. There's nothing really crazy about this. It's just that simple, you know. But like I said, League Star, you know, use Scavas, use a normal ring here, get a Perseverance instead of a Dying Sun. Use a Jade Flask or Amethyst Flask. Rubies are pretty cheap. You can use a Granite Flask to replace it, and just use a Silver Flask instead of a Bottle of Faith. And you know, get that Diamond Flask with a bunch of crit on it. It's really easy to roll. It's so fucking good. It's hard to roll with the Surgeons, but crit on crit is really easy to roll. Just the Surgeons on top of that is gonna be like, you know, decently hard, but totally worth it. You know, highly recommend. And that's pretty much it. You know, pretty much it. So let's go into that Mino map where I dropped that bullshit card, and that's pretty much where the video ends. And I'll see you guys later. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick map because unfortunately, like, the only bosses I have for this build in standard here is a Maze of the Minotaurs. We're gonna do a Maze of the Minotaur real quick. We'll probably add some Anarchy because I don't have a lot of things here. And maybe I just do a little bit of beasts, and we're gonna use the Lancing Steel GMP chain rod because I think it's gonna be really. It's been working really well in my opinion, better than splitting, and you don't have to spam it as often because the mana cost is a lot higher thanks to the double 150 fucking mana multipliers on these two things. I know I have a Pharaohs. It's not supposed to be a Pharaoh, so for that reason, I'm not using Aspect of the Cat. So I'm not gonna have Frenzies or Power Charges, and like it's just wasted shit right here. But it's supposed to be Mark on Hit Poacher's Mark, and with Poacher's Mark, which allows your projectiles to split, I feel like if Lancing Steel always cursed Poacher's Mark, basically like a Poacher's Mark on hit ring, which wasn't a thing even before, it'd be a thing now because of that support gem, would be amazing. I think the clear would be even better because that means that you can shoot an enemy, you'll curse them, and then they'll split off in that enemy, and you probably clear a lot better. So yeah, it's pretty neat. But it's kind of like, you know, a showcase of like the end game. Keep in mind, I'm supposed to be having this Pantheon that says cannot be frozen, and then you want boots that says cannot be chilled. Instead of moving to, because you just leaf slam everywhere. But this is standard. I'm using whatever I can find, so I just put cannot be frozen here. But it's supposed to simulate the Pantheon, and it cannot be chill boots, right? So I'm not immune to chill and everything. Until then, you can use like. Hey, bro, can you shut up, please?
Now, all he feels is intense, unstoppable agony.
Okay, thank you. And you can get another flask, like just with immunity to freeze and chill for a bit until you get, you know, the Pantheon or the boots or whatever, and that pretty much carry the majority of the way. And yeah, this is the non-perseverance route, just so you guys can see how it works. And remember, we still have the what is it, Call of Steel to help with clear, to make sure we have chain GMP Lancing. Okay, good. Now you can see here that it's not like the best, but it does get the job done quite a bit. You know, pretty safe. It's pretty reliable. And if you do need to get more damage, you can just, you know, go close range and abuse point blank a bit. We do have Ball Grease as well. I wish this guy could stop moving. There you go. The Lancing Steel has a weird little cone effect, so like not all the projectiles shoot straight, which kind of makes it really weird to hit with multiple projectiles unless you're like literally right in his fucking face. And even then, you don't want to be in front of his face either. You kind of want to be like a little bit away from his face. Don't ask me why, just the way this game fucking works, right? But definitely the clear is going to vastly improve once we get Poacher's Mark on hit. I can't wait for that damn thing. And I'm surprised I haven't updated POB yet when it's 1 day away from the fucking league launch. But literally Mark on hit's going to be fucking nuts. You can definitely go the Perseverance route. It gives you free onslaught and gives you all the damage. You can use Grace, but I might cap res with it. It does take a little bit more. We can do this. And I'm still not using onslaught because like attack speed doesn't really benefit Lancing Steel that much. Let's be real here. I'm gonna stay from far away. Damn, that Impale did a lot of damage there. You can see even at like long range, you know, it still does good damage. I'll some flask here. Nane! What the fuck? Standard, please stop taking my damn fucking luck, piece of shit. Okay, that happened live. I am keeping that in the video. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Suck a dick. Fuck making money off of YouTube. I'm gonna curse all I want. That should not have happened. Whatever, bro. Fuck you. I got my system. I can't believe that just happened, dude. I recorded one. My pen is Brine, got an Exile. Recorded this character. I got a fucking Fiend. A Fiend. You know how much money that'd be worth early on in the game? Yeah, I know Mage Blood exists, but fuck, dude. That's still like a few Exalts, man. Shit. Especially if I wait a bit. Why are there 3 projectiles here? 3 Exiles here. I don't want to use my flask, man. Why I feel like I'm not hitting anything. Thank you. Aim, bro, aim. Thank you. Alright. So, for single target, we're going to do the old swap rooting. And instead of chain, we're going to be slower projectiles. Right? Right? Yeah, it's not even level 20. A lot of these teams are not even level 20. Keep that in mind. And let's go and see how it goes. We're all good. We're all good. Yep. Alright. Keep in mind that you want to be literally like, you don't want, like, example, if this is the boss, you don't want to be like right here. You kind of want to be like a little bit of distance away. Because it does summon in front of you. So what's happening if you're too close, it kind of summons behind them, which is kind of, it's going to cut your damage completely. Yet. So you want it to be like right there. All right. Got my stuff up. I have Arcanist Brand Sniper's Mark to kind of, oh, it's here. To kind of simulate the mark on hit. But, you know, it is what it is. So that's good. And why is it? What the actual fuck just happened? Alright, so fuck that other map. I only left it in there because Fiend dropped. But essentially, we're back in another Maze of Minotaur. Nothing really crazy here other than avoid elements and reflect. And probably less of the curse is probably the biggest nerf there. But other than that, we went back to Perseverance and then Cape Grace instead of using everything else. I realized that we had Grace, but we weren't using the Perseverance belt. Just to give it a test, you know, give it a whirl. And I am capped res despite having the belt. So I figured we should always try it out. It's actually working pretty decent. You know? It's actually a lot better than I expected. I'm not quite sure. I did test out the Pride a little bit, and it just seemed like less damage for some reason. I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that the Pride, you have to be like near the enemy to gain the buff. And while you're clearing at this range, you know, that damage doesn't really matter. The Pride's kind of like a meme aura a little bit in terms of clear. And Perseverance allows you to, you know, drop silver flasks, which is kind of neat. So everything in mind. I'm gonna go over this map real quick. Go over defenses real here, dude. You have, you know, basically like with everything up, 81% mitigation, over 70% evasion, that including blind if you happen to get blind. I got blind from an Abyssal Jewel, which you removed from the belt. So if you have Perseverance, I don't have blind anymore. But if you find a way to stick it back in, it'll be pretty good. Trying to avoid using flash here before the boss fight. Hopefully get a better run. We don't get absolutely nuked by some stupid shit. Alright, here's that Fiend again. Because this fuck this game. And the single target's gonna be slow projectiles instead of chain, and GMP stays, Lancing Steel. Okay. Now we're chilling. We're gonna pull it. Arcanist Brand on him. Alright, and then we go ahead. I'm not gonna lie, looking at this damage, it looks better than the damage that I got from Pride. Is that a bit weird? Look at that. And that's with like a pretty nerfed Sniper's Mark. I'm not sure what's happening, to be honest here, because I did do the Minotaur from the other map with Pride, and it did less damage, and according to POB, it should be more damage. Whatever. I actually really recommend the Perseverance route because it does really good damage. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you can fit it in, you know, a bunch of res gear. I mean, this should be easy because like this is gonna be get out of the build. This shouldn't belong there. It has no res, right? It's just life and armor and ES. So fuck it. If you can fit it in, dude, highly recommend. I used to have for some pretty good gear, you know, like these gloves are fucking nutty. That's the issue. And these boots are actually normal. They're pretty good. Nothing crazy. They're just super solid boots. Otherwise, everything else is pretty normal. You know, this ring is just like high life and res and just minus mana cost. So yeah. With that, let's move on to the end. And that pretty much sums up, you know, this league starter. It's a pretty simple with a lot of potential when you put the investment in. and it's super solid, super defensive. You can make it max DPS or max defenses, but I think it has enough damage that you want to go the max defense route, and it just feels better with the perma onslaught, and it is a bit cheaper. You know, Results Koyo is more expensive and things like that. And yeah, highly recommend. You know, if you guys have any questions, because this is like a lot of different versions of his build, please let me know. Comments down below. Let me know how the Sniper's Mark or Mark on Hit setup works on Clear. I'm very tempted to try it out. I might go back in Standard and test it, and if I feel like it's super insane, maybe make another video on it. Who the fuck knows? But yeah, after this is only winter type brand, and I'll probably post it like after Friday. But if you do want the POB early, just let me know on Discord, and I'll give it to you like no problems. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that, guys, thanks so much for watching, and on to the next one. Peace out.